Welcome to the Meat and Potatoes podcast. We're here with Dan Beck, who is the co-founder and CEO of 401 Go. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's great to be here.
Appreciate you taking the time.
Of course.
All right, we're going to talk about a lot of fun stuff. You're a serial entrepreneur. But first, let's talk about 401 Go. Founding story, what does the company do, and where did the idea come from?
So I'll start with where the idea originated from. As a serial entrepreneur, I'd started in a number of businesses before. And it didn't take me long to realize the value of people and the team that I had. And so that, and then also I've always kind of been a financial nerd. And so when somebody would come to me, maybe asking for like a payday advance or something, I saw that as kind of an opportunity to help them beyond just a paycheck. So I wanted to set up a 401k for the company's benefit. And going through that process, I tried on 2 different occasions, gave up both times and realized, no, this will have to wait until I have an HR team. And I never got a company that size. The biggest that I had prior to 401 Go was about 30 employees. And so it was just unattainable. And I thought that was a disservice to small business owners and their employees.
Gotcha. And for those that don't know, like a 401k is a perk that corporations offer, retirement plan, little matching.
Yeah.
Can decide on how much.
Exactly. And the big advantage is when you're a small company, I think it's different now. People oftentimes are looking for small companies to work where they can have a bigger impact. But there is still kind of that idea or stigma that, this isn't as secure as a big corporate job. And so when you're competing for talent, it's imperative that those employers have benefits that, rival other job offers out there. And so that's really what we did, was build a platform that, the average time it takes to set up a 401k is, a good 7 weeks. With us, you can set up a plan in as little as 15 minutes, connect it to your payroll system, and it'll run on autopilot to where for that owner, their involvement after it's set up is maybe 10 minutes a year just to kind of verify some information before we, submit all the required legal documents. And no one's been able to do that. And because of it, anybody now, even, people say, how small of a company do you support? There's a lot of solopreneurs out there, and we will support that solopreneur. So if you're one person, you're big enough for a 401k, you're big enough for 401 Go.
Very cool. So it was born out of like pain and seeing a market opportunity.
Yep.
Kind of at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
So there's probably hundreds of thousands of entrepreneurs that had the same experience as you did, because I'm assuming they're getting hit up for all sorts of things, and that's one of them. And then the majority of them probably gave up as well, right?
Yeah.
So as you build the product and the company, where did you start with like first set of customers?
It from the very beginning, we had the thesis that there's this, I think, a bad idea in fintech and oftentimes just in tech in general, that algorithms and code can replace humans. There's a lot of instances where that makes sense. But when it came to saving behaviors, we were focused first and foremost on outcomes. So it wasn't just making it easy for the business owner, but also what sort of impact will this have on those employees. And with that in mind, we felt that having a high-tech as well as a high-touch approach was going to deliver the best outcomes. And so we had the challenge of working with financial advisors that can come in, provide guidance, coaching, and support to those employees. So in order to do that, we had to build a product that worked for them. And so our first customers came from financial advisors that were trialing this on some of their clients. And seeing if this is something they could use. And that's really, something interesting about what we're doing is we're not going after directly to these small businesses. We're using a lot of kind of these legacy service channels. And the problem has been a marketplace issue, where, as you mentioned, there's probably been hundreds of thousands of other entrepreneurs that wanted this, and they went to the marketplace and saw how complex and difficult it was, and so they didn't engage. And then on the other side of that marketplace, you had the service providers that see, okay, maybe there would be some interest at that SMB level, but they never had the tools in order to go after it. And so there was this gap that we needed to bridge. And what we found is there's thousands of advisors across the country that are interested in small businesses. And if you do it right and you realign those incentives, they'll get involved and they'll get excited about small business rather than just going and trying to poach that big $10 million plan from somewhere else.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, the employees will get a statement in the mail or here's how your 401k is doing. And that requires obviously regulation, but then the financial advisors and they put it in mutual funds and all sorts of stuff. That's you guys don't worry about that, right? You've got the financial advisor partners.
So we can do that. About half of our customers don't have a financial advisor. We try to pair them with one, but a lot of the solopreneurs, they got to where they were being very financially savvy, and so they're like, I can do this on my own. And so we actually have, that's the nice thing about our product is traditionally when you set up a 401k, you've got to work with like 4 or 5 different service providers. With 401go, we do everything. We're technically not the bank. We don't hold the assets, but to that end user, they don't have to go set up that relationship. They don't have to pay those fees. We take care of everything. And so even if you don't have a financial advisor, we have kind of a core lineup of investment choices, and they're all mutual funds, ETFs. But then on top of that, some employers, we can give them kind of what we call open architecture access, where they have over 20,000 different funds they can choose from if there's something that they're really looking for. So we do have a lot of flexibility built into the platform, and we also had to build a solution that would work with or without an advisor.
Yeah, very cool. So you're thinking through all of the scenarios there. So as I mentioned, serial entrepreneur, and your previous experience was in kind of outdoor consumer goods.
Yep.
So actual stuff that people can touch, hold, and feel.
Yes.
How is building, a fintech company different? But what laws of entrepreneurship apply across both?
I think a lot of it is I've always been extremely curious. I don't let the obvious pass me by. And so when you start asking questions, then you find out that there's a lot of gaps in services and products and everything. And that's really what led into all of the different products I was involved in. Is the first one was a gun cleaning accessory that I felt would make that process safer and more enjoyable and everything else. And so there was nothing out there like it, and it was kind of a combination of some ideas that I had from a few different places, and I put it together and created that brand. And then from there, that evolved into other things where, again, being curious, keeping my head up, always looking and asking why. I found other opportunities within that same kind of outdoor sporting goods space where I saw, man, there's some really amazing gear, but it's so incredibly expensive, and it's very niche, and so it's, a lot of these things are one-off handmade pieces, and how can we deliver at scale to kind of reduce those costs and make it more affordable. And so at my core, I say I'm a marketer, and what it really comes down to is I try to identify a gap in the market, or somebody that's looking for something, and deliver that as much value as I possibly can. And really, the process of the business, a lot of those functions they're either adding to the value of that transaction or whatever it is you're doing, or they're taking away from it. And so that's where the other part is. I'm a very good operator in that I look at that entire process of how are we delivering value? Do we have more of a sales-driven approach versus a marketing approach? And the exciting thing is a lot of what I learned in kind of that space, consumer products, where we're doing a lot of high frequency transactions, and one of the businesses we were in the top 3% of Amazon sellers. We had a gross margin of like 3%, and so that required extensive amounts of automation. And so I was able to take a lot of what I learned there and apply it to an entirely different industry, financial services, and figure out ways of how do I deliver this value as efficiently as I possibly can. And so for me, really, at the end of the day, it's just I'm never satisfied with the common answer. I have to know why, and in so doing, you find opportunity is everywhere.
Yeah, it's a great way to look at it, and I assume the margins with your current venture are a little bit better than 3%.
Software's a lot easier to replicate than products. We were hit with Trump tariffs. We did manufacturing in Myanmar, Burma, and they went. They've been in and out of civil war. They had a military coup again. Our factory was shut down, and so it's been hard doing global sourcing.
Yeah.
And we've certainly taken a beating with some of those companies. And software is entirely different. And at the same time, I was always the idea of kind of going that venture capital route, doing tech, aggressive, fast startup. It was appealing to me and exciting because in those prior companies, they were bootstrapped. And when you're bootstrapped, you can only grow at the rate that you're producing excess capital beyond what you need.
Yeah.
And so with this, it's kind of exciting to be able to grow at a faster pace. But at the same time, I think having that foundation in business building, through bootstrapping has allowed us to build what I believe is a more solid foundational long-term business because we have some fierce competition in the space. Our two biggest competitors are worth $1 billion, and it scares investors when they look at how much we've raised versus how much they've raised. But at the end of the day, I'm not afraid, and the reason why is because I'm building business, and I think if anything to contrast them, the Utah way.
Yeah.
It's more sustainable. It's not just this flash in the pan. Let's put growth at all costs, kind of the Bay Area model of just pour and pour and pour more and more cash in, with the hope that we'll eventually have enough market share that somebody will step in and buy the business and fix all those those unit economic problems that were generated in that growth at all cost model.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really a big differentiator. And if anything, I've had to push myself more to be a little less thrifty and frugal in some ways and say, yeah, I could probably do this myself, but it's in everyone's best interest if I, have somebody else do it and hire somebody else. So there are a lot of parallels, but at the end of the day, they're very different businesses in the way that you scale them and just approach the daily operations.
Yeah, I can imagine. So whether you're, creating gun cleaning kits or fintech company, at some point you'll probably go on a vacation, right?
What's that?
Yeah. If you do, your level of enjoyment might depend on like how comfortable you are with what's going on back at the office or the factory. And you mentioned earlier like the importance of team, right?
Yeah.
So new venture, you've got all sorts of hats you're wearing, can't run out of money, got to get the tech, got to get all of that. But it seems like team's probably the paramount for you.
Oh, yeah.
Couple of thoughts on that. How do you go about like building your team?
That's been really exciting, especially with what we're doing now. The prior businesses that I've been involved in, they were a lot of fun, and we had amazing teams. But at the end of the day, I was essentially, if I was good at my job, I was convincing people to buy things that maybe they didn't really need that much. What we're doing now has a huge impact. And because we are so mission-driven, we're attracting people that are looking for more than just a job. And so already we have an extremely positive culture, and that's something that, we're only at about 25 headcount now. But we already have a culture committee, and we, stress values. We hire based off of values, and so we're very values driven in identifying the right team. That we have a shared mentality that we all care about each other, and so that inherently means that we're going to have all high performers. And we're attracting some of the best. And the nice thing is I don't have recruiting issues. Every week we're getting resumes from people that are in the financial industry saying, I keep hearing about you. I think it's amazing what you're doing. Can I come work for you? We've had investors that are very successful that want to leave their job to come do something with us, even though they don't know what that would be yet. And we have engineers. My brother's the CTO, and we get resumes daily from engineers that like what we're doing. And so I think if you have a solid culture and you're doing the right thing, that spreads. And in terms of like being able to vacation, when you have a solid team, you can have peace of mind. I love going to Lake Powell, and when I'm down there, I'm disconnected, and I've never ever worried about what's happening, back in the office. And that's because I know I have amazing people, and that I don't have to. They're amazing on their own. I have to just get out of their way. And I have to give them the ability to be amazing. And so that's I think that's probably some of the disservices every time, I meet with somebody like, oh, you've built an amazing business. I haven't. It's these individuals that have. I have the fortunate benefit of being the one that gets to be out there and telling people about what we're building. But at the end of the day, the reason we are where we are is because of the amazing team that we have.
Yeah, absolutely. And what happens when you and your brother disagree on something? Is he older? You older?
I'm older. I'm stronger than him. We do races. I'm faster than him. So
You got it all sorted?
I've got it sorted. But it was hard when we first started working together. I mean, we've been working together and building businesses for over 10 years. And there were many times where we thought it was over for the first couple of years that we were at an impasse. And now we've realized he's really good at what he does, and he trusts me with what I do. And so I certainly have ideas about where we should be investing in product development and everything else. But at the end of the day, I defer to him. And the fact that we have churn that's below 3% is a testament that we have an amazing, solid product. And that's because he's prioritized all the right things. So at this point, there's enough trust capital that I'd follow him off a cliff, but I know he wouldn't do that.
Yeah. So you can still go to family dinners and
Yep.
very cool. How do you guys go about like developing your products? Do you go in like year-long plans, year-long goals? Do you use OKRs? When the rubber meets the road, how do you guys operate?
So I've used a lot of different kind of systems. One we're using now it's called Scaling Up, and similar to like EOS. And the idea is that we start with a vision. We have a big, hairy, audacious goal. We know exactly what we want our ultimate product and vision to be, and then everything is working back from that. So, I love kind of the saying that everything, we move in dog years in a startup. So a year for everyone else is 7 for us. And so instead of having like a 5-year, 10-year goal, we're going out only a couple of years. Because that's how fast things are changing. And then we just kind of, take it back in different time increments all the way down to this is what we're doing this quarter. And then that translates to each individual team member. How do I contribute to that? And we do this religiously. So we actually just had our company town hall yesterday where we have an executive offsite every quarter. We talk about what's that vision, has it changed? And then everything revolves around that. The product does, the way that we deliver service, the marketing and the sales functions really evolve around that vision. And it's exciting because it allows you to pivot and move a company rather efficiently because there's no conflict of really what we should be working for. We have the difficult job of building a product that meets a lot of regulatory compliance. Then there's also a lot of administrative function that nobody sees. And, for me, being a marketer, I want sexy features that sell. And we have to sometimes deprioritize, interest based off of what the overall vision is. And so more recently, we've decided that we've been excelling on kind of the partner front. The industry is warmly embracing us. And so we've decided let's double down on that. And so everything, engineering, all of our efforts are moving more towards how do we better support our partners. And so that's really where it all starts is just a lot of feedback before we go on those executive offsites. And then when we're there, we galvanize that vision. And generally that, the further out it is, the less change there is. But more immediate, from quarter to quarter, there can be some pretty big swings. But everybody does a good job of taking it in stride.
Yeah. And for the overall business model of how you guys get paid, right?
Mm-hmm.
How scientific is that versus like, we're going to try this and see if we're warmly received?
I'm actually shocked that I'd say we almost hit it on day one. We've made some slight minor changes, but that's more ways that we can accommodate our partners and those partner channels. But we did a lot of kind of due diligence and research into what's reasonable, what do businesses expect, and we've stuck with it. And so even though we have competitors that are sometimes more expensive, sometimes less expensive, that's not what we're focused on. It's just the value from an economic standpoint. So it's very simple. I mean, that's one of the messy parts of 401ks traditionally offered is with all those different service providers, they all have a combination of fees where sometimes there's monthly fees, there's annual fees, there's asset-based fees, and all these service providers are usually charging 1 or 2 different fee items. And so most people have no clue what they're actually paying in their 401k. And so for us, it's simple. The company pays a little bit, and the employee pays a little bit in assets. For the company, it's $9 per user per month. That's like 90% or 80% less expensive than industry typical solutions. And then the asset-based fee borne by the employees is a small 0.3% annually. So a fraction of what's out there. But for us, because we're tech and we're delivering this as efficiently as we can, it's still, generous margins.
Yeah, for sure. And we've mentioned this word a few times, regulations, right? How often do those really throw a monkey wrench into your guys' operation?
So I am as a business owner, born and raised in Utah, I'm very conservative. And my general view on government is that, free market systems tend to regulate themselves best. We certainly, I think it is important for government to be involved in regulation and help kind of steer using regulation. But we've benefited significantly from changing regulation. Specifically, there are currently actually I think it's more than this, but as of a few months ago, there were 14 states that have passed legislation where it requires the employers to offer some sort of a retirement benefit. So the best example right now is California. If you have 5 employees or more in California, you have to comply with this mandate. And so because of that, that's created a lot of market demand. And so that's caused the industry incumbents to say, hey, how do we serve this market demand? And then also we're in the position where we can directly take on that increase in demand. And so regulation in general at the local level, at the national level, has very much moved in favor of what we're doing. And I think the reason why is because it's no secret, Social Security is struggling, and how do we fund it? It needs some adjustment, but nobody wants to touch that mess. And so one of the ways that we can easily fix that is, create a legislative environment or a regulatory environment where it's easier for small businesses to offer 401ks or retirement plans, and also incentivizing them. So right now, there's incredible tax benefits. For example, if you have 10 or fewer employees, we're virtually free because you're going to receive more tax credits than what our plans cost. And so there's a lot of tax benefits that have been able to, kind of encourage small business owners to do that. On the other side, yes, we have to deal with the SEC, the IRS, and the Department of Labor. So, there's a lot of regulation out there, but at the same time, it's been around long enough that there's enough precedent that has been set that it's not like crypto where everything and every day is a gray area. Yeah. It's very established of what we can and can't do. And if anything, we err on the side of caution. There's some things that, these regulators kind of look the other way. And for us, we're very core into this is why that rule's in place, and we believe in that. And it's generally, is this tool being used just for the highly compensated, or is it truly for the benefit of the entire company? And we're about the entire company. It's about democratizing this. And so generally, we line up very well with the way that regulation moves.
Well, that's good. And with the regulation, do you guys have like a lobbyist group that keeps you abreast of stuff that might be coming down the chute that could be punitive?
We do. So we're part of some industry associations that have lobbying arms. So the National Association of Plan Advisors, and a number of others. That's really what they do is they advocate for service providers such as ourselves.
Very cool.
And then on the small business level, I've always enjoyed the NFIB, and then Silicon Slopes. I know that from kind of creating an environment where startups can thrive. Is paramount, and Silicon Slopes has certainly done that. So I think lobbyist is sometimes a dirty word, but it's not. They're out there advocating for the interests of everybody that is that makes up our social structure and economy.
Yeah. And so I guess at the end of the day, you guys are a part of something which is cool, which is somebody sitting on their porch in a rocking chair, enjoying their golden years, instead of having a part-time job.
Yep.
Type of thing.
Yeah.
So, I think it's very noble, like financial management, and the learning curves are there, but it's not like insurmountable.
Yeah.
And if done correctly, and you guys have made it easier, right? So,
yep.
It's very cool. Last question, you've got all that experience in outdoor retail and those, if you could only shop at one store for the rest of your life, what would it be?
That's a good one. Probably Shills. I should say Sportsman's Warehouse because they were born here in Utah. But Shills has everything, like if you're they've got bikes. I've gotten really into mountain biking, and they've got, fishing. They have everything. So it would be Shills.
Gotcha. That's a good choice.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much, Dan, for taking the time to join, and congrats to you and your team for what you guys are building. It's very cool.
Thank you.
Thanks.